Hello everybody. How are you all doing today? I hope you guys are having a good weekend. Sorry we are a little bit late getting here between just rushing around and Wi-Fi causing an issue again. Technology is great when it works. And thankfully I have helpers here that can help me get it working when it doesn't. I'm just going to get this pulled up on my end so I can follow along with you guys. I'll just try to watch for your comments. Hi Ramona, how are you doing? I see you've had a crafty weekend, or at least a crafty day. Hi Linda. Linda will recognize this fold here. I cased one of her fancy folds again. So I have it's kind of like a faux front step easel card that I'll show you guys. And I feel like I'm going to need to try it with the stamped image as well to bring in a little bit more color. This one's pretty dull, but I thought it was a good way to show the die cuts and watercolor paper. Hi Tammy, and I bet Janet's there with you too. All right, so I am going to feature the Quiet Meadow bundle today. So this one I just have one project made, but I'll show you this faux front step easel card, and then I've got the stamp. I really just used the greeting from that one, so maybe I'll have to come back. And Tammy and Janet are watching. It's too funny because that almost looks like the official notification when someone's name pops up and shows that they're watching. So you made it look very official, Tammy. So I really only use the greeting here, but I feel like I should come back another time or even just make a project and share it with you guys and substitute the die cut out for this stamped image here. This does not coordinate with this DSP. It's actually the hand pen DSP, which is the same as what I used the other day when I used the Fine Art Floral that's on sale. I pulled it together with the hand penned paper because we don't have the paper that coordinated with the Fine Art Floral anymore. That was from the last January to June catalog. But it's kind of showing me that this hand penned DSP actually coordinates with quite a few different floral stamps. You can pull it in and make it work. So I went with the same pattern and the same color scheme as this one here, and then just substituted this image out for the die cut from the Meadow dies, this one here, and I cut it with watercolor paper. These images or dies actually work really well as silhouettes as well. So if you've got black cardstock, they work really nicely. I should have dug some out because I have used the silhouettes from these ones here. But before I get into making this card, I wanted to show you guys an original card that I did with a similar fold, but it's not the faux front step easel. You actually have to get out your cutter where you can just make partial cuts and scores, and it's a lot more work to do it with this method versus this method. So I wanted to show you guys this easier way to do this, and it came from this card that Linda sent me. So Linda's here. Thank you, Linda, for this card that you sent me in the mail. She made this one with the New Horizons suite, and you can see on the back here where it's actually a separate panel that makes this front step fold, which is a lot easier than having to make all these fancy cuts that only go part way. So this, I mean, it's doable, but it is a little bit more complicated to get into cutting just these partial cuts so that they don't go all the way through to the end of your cardstock. So very similar in style, but this one makes it a little bit simpler to complete. So I'm going to show you guys this one here. I just dug this one out from last year's retreat so that I could show you guys the difference in how that front step easel turns out. Looks very similar, just simpler to do it this way. All right, so I'll get into showing you guys this one. And thank you again, Linda, for this beautiful card. I had seen one done with this faux front step, but had never made one. So we're going to do that together today. All right. Do any of you guys have the Quiet Meadow bundle? I can't remember, Janet, if you have these dies or not. These ones are also really great dies to have just standalone, even if you don't have the stamp set, because they actually don't even die cut the images from here. But this one does have a really nice grunge. These ones make nice backgrounds, so there's that as well if you were interested in the actual bundle. So that one's 20% off. The bundle itself is on sale for $64.75. So I'll put these aside and I will tell you guys the measurements of what we have for our card layers. So this one here is actually not a full piece of cardstock. It's not the 11 inches. This one is 4 1/4 by 10. And then we have another layer that is, I've cut mine a little smaller than Linda's. I'll bring hers back in. Her center panel here, I think is 3 1/4. No, it's 2 3/4. I cut mine narrower because I wanted it to fit behind this die cut layer. I think that one is from, I want to say Ornate Layers, but I will just pull that one out and check for you guys. I will find it. So I just trimmed mine down so that I could fit that on there. So I have that layer there. And then I have the Ornate layer. I have just cut these pieces. You will make custom to whatever you're filling your panel with, but I've used this one from the Ornate Layers. I cut a liner and textured it to go in front of that. And then if you want the DSP layers to line the front of your panels here, I'll give you guys those measurements. Again, I made mine a little bit wider on the side than what Linda's is here because I made this section narrower, so I needed my DSP to be a little bit wider. Measurements of your second layer you made smaller. That's right, thank you, I missed that part. So I'll tell you what Linda's are and I'll tell you what mine are. Mine are 2 1/16 more than a half. So let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. 2 9/16. Janet's gonna love that measurement. And that is by 8 1/2. So the reason it's 8 1/2 is then you can cut your 8 1/2 by 11 cardstock evenly and not have waste. But if you wanted this panel to go all the way down the back of your card, then you could just cut it longer there if you wanted to have that. Now Linda's, if you're going to do this a little differently, is 2 3/4 by 8 1/2. So that measurement is a little more friendly than if you're cutting it to fit this label here. I hope that makes sense. And I'm just going to grab the dies that this one came from because it's got a really neat set of frames. Okay, sorry guys. Now, Ornate Layers is the one that this is from. It's right in front of me all along. So I use this one, but you do get all of these with that one. And I have used this one quite a bit for if I wanted to do an ombre down the front of a card. It fits really nicely. I need to find a full-size card so I can show you. You can fit 5 of these right down the front of a card if you wanted to do panels. The stitched rectangles do not work that way because they're not sized to fit like that. So if you're wanting to do that style of card, that stitched rectangle is the one that works nicely. Okay, so now these little panels are, mine are 1 inch by 3 1/4, and they are going to fit in here. And then these two are 1 inch by 1 1/4, and they will fit right here. They do tuck behind that panel just a little bit. If you were to do the ones sized for Linda's card here, they are 3/4 of an inch by 3 1/4, I believe. Yeah. So these panels are 3/4 of an inch by 3 1/4, and then these ones are 3/4 of an inch by 1 1/4. Okay, now we will get into making this card. So what I'll do first is I will actually build the base, and then we'll build all of this little technique here. And then that way we'll get the fun part. I feel like the base of this is the fun part because then you guys have the base to build from. So we're going to do that first. I'm going to just use my Simply Scored, move these aside. So this initial layer here that is the 4 1/4 by 10, you want to score that one at 3 1/2, 7, and 8 1/2. So I'll get that 3 1/2, 7, and 8 1/2. And then this layer here that I have trimmed down a little narrower, it's 8 1/2 in length. You want to score on the 8 1/2 inch side at 3 inches. So then basically that's leaving us a 5 1/2 inch section that will be the height of our card. So if you wanted to do an 11 inch piece, then it would just go the full height and down the full back of your card. So if you like to have that panel go all the way down, that's an easy fix if you wanted to do that. Okay. Just about slipped off my stool. That wouldn't be good. All right, so now this one here is going to fold down and then back up and then back down. So we'll just burnish all those. I feel like the base of this card is actually really simple when you don't have to do all of those fancy cuts on the side panels like we had to do with this one. This one is a lot of, okay, flip your cardstock, slice here and stop here, don't go all the way through, which is pretty, but this one just takes that, I don't know, the fear out of it. The measurements of this one, Lena, this one, mine is a little narrower than Linda's. Mine is like 2 9/16 by 8 1/2, and Linda's, which is not, like hers isn't sized to accommodate this die. I trimmed mine narrower to accommodate this Misty Moonlight die, but hers is 2 3/4. Just double check that measurement. Yeah, hers is 2 3/4 by 8 1/2. So that's probably your easier way to go, is with her measurements there. But again, if you guys need to trim the width down to accommodate whatever you're putting on your center panel, that's an easy fix for you. All right, so now with this, I want to glue these two down here. So they're gonna go like this. And then these two are going to glue on the front here. So I will grab my Tombow. I went and accidentally squeezed a whole pile of Tombow onto my sample, so don't do as I did. It's always when you're in a hurry to get things done that your Tombow just squeezes out of there. So I'm just giving about 1/8 of an inch all the way around on these. I'm not being super picky about where they line up. Like I don't need to get the grid sheet out or anything for that. Just kind of eyeball it. But if you are one that likes to measure, that's okay too. Now these are going to go on the front in the same manner with about 1/8 of an inch all the way around on these 3 sides. And then the same thing for this one. I feel like this is such a fast way to make a neat fold. Another customer of mine, friend of mine, she made one with, it might have actually been with On the Horizons as well. I'll have to go back and look at the photos. I took a picture of it because I thought it was such a neat fold, and then I got one in the mail. Oh, you're welcome, Lena. I always hope that you guys will go forward and create these, so don't ever hesitate to ask. I don't mind sharing the details. I love sharing the details. Okay, so now we have this here, and this mechanism here is going to become this center panel. So what I'll do with this one is I want to put some glue on the back, or some tape on the back of that. And don't forget, if you guys would like to share this, you are welcome to do so. I will put the names of those of you who have shared and then come back to let me know that you've shared in the draw for tomorrow. So if you'll get extra entries. I had mentioned on the video the other day where I did pop and pastels. If you go back and post a photo in the comments of that video with a project you've made with pop and pastels, you'll get an extra entry. And if you try this center, what is it called? Front step card. I think it's a front step easel card is what it's called. So if you give this a try and come back and post a photo by tomorrow, I'll give you an extra entry for that as well. Front step easel card, I think is what it's called. All right, and then I want to put tape on the back of here as well. There are so many different stamp sets that I want to try this fold with, just because I think it's kind of fun and fancy. Now I should actually grab a ruler and just measure where this is going to go across so that I know it's on center. This is where a centering ruler is helpful, but I have been having a hard time finding one. So I'm going to put this in the middle here. Just want to center that. So I have about 7/8 and 7/8. There we go. So I've glued this one down along the bottom. Nothing else is adhered just yet. But now what I want to do is just reach in here and peel this backing off. I've been searching everywhere, Lena. If you find one, let me know. And if you find more of these guys here, let me know that as well. We've been talking about those lately. So now here, all I need to do is peel this backing off and then just close it. And then we'll have that mechanism there. So that's the benefit of getting this front lined up first, is it makes this back really easy to just tape down. Then you don't have to fight with lining it up. So there we go. Look how easy that was to make a front step easel card. This one does not lay completely flat in an open position like this one does. So this one does do that, but that's fine because it lays flat when closed and can still go in an envelope. So that's no big deal for that part there. And then now I would just take these pieces here and layer them on the front. And then I've got the full card base. I love how that comes together. And this panel here is a really nice fit to go down the middle of this and give you the front of your project a little bit of extra something. I do have my old die brush, so I'm going to use that really quick to just pop out all of these little circles. It's got all of that little detail in there. And this is just too easy to do this. So if you have the die brush tip for the take your pick tool, then you can use that as well if you don't have this old die brush. Mine is just still good, so, and it's handy. It's right here in my drawer beside me, so I use it. But I do have the other one in case all of my bristles fall out of this one. I've been lucky, touch wood, that the bristles have not fallen out of mine. But look what a mess that makes. There we go. I used this on the Dahlia die background. It's really good for that too. So now I can just put this away. There. Sorry for the noise. The drawer is right here beside us. There. So what I did here with this one is the same as usual. I used one of my blends and just flicked some over that. So for this one, I used Pool Party. I'll bring that back in so you can see that. And just made a little bit of a spatter behind there. I'm gonna move it out of the way just while I do this so that I don't have more than I want all over it. There we go. And then I distressed the edges of this with my scissors, which are just hiding under my embellishments. Whoops, wrong edge. Did any of you panic for me there that I was going to slice right into that ornate layer? And then I can just glue this one down too. I cut this one. I can give you guys the measurements of this if you'd like. It's another one of those wonky measurements, but I cut it to fit inside this frame. And this one is like a 1/16 past 2, so 2 1/16. I think by 5 1/16 is the measurement. Yep. And then that way it just sits nicely inside the stitched edge here, because there is a nice stitched edge inside that pretty scalloped one. This layer I dimensionaled onto the card front. Lena, have you tried this fold before? You are usually queen of fancy folds and 3D projects, so just curious if you've tried this one. And if you have you done the full front step easel card where you have to slice the sides there and not cut all the way through? Or have you tried this kind of faux method? I really like this one. I have an idea in mind to do a different version, but in the landscape version. So I'm going to see if I can come up with the measurements to do the front step easel in a landscape style card. So maybe that'll be something you guys will get to see. Now I just need to build all of the decorations on the front. But what do you guys think so far of that style of card? I just love the colors of this. That's why I feel like this flower is not, it doesn't pop enough. I feel like it's a little bit muted, but that was the strategy I was going with for today, was the watercolor flower. So I stuck with it, but I'll have to, like I said, bring back do one with this here and tie that in. So that'll be a challenge. But my challenge to you guys is make one of these cards. Make a faux front step easel card and then come back and show me. I'd love to see what you guys make. I'll show you another thing that I had attempted to do, but I didn't like it. I had this here behind the greeting and it just felt too bold. And then I tried a blushing bride and it was, I don't know, I wasn't sure. So I just went back to the basics and just stuck with a white layer. But this beautiful little greeting label does come in that set of dies. It is not actually on my magnet sheet, so you guys wouldn't have seen that. Nope, and it's not in my magnet tray either. Do you know where the greeting label is? This one. It's on the wrong set. There's these ornate frames as well that are also in the catalog. It was just put on the wrong one, but this really pretty label goes on there, so that will go back on the proper sheet. Do you guys ever do that? Put your dies back on the wrong one? They eventually migrate back to where they belong, but sometimes they go on the wrong one temporarily, until we go looking for it. We go to use it and it's not where it's supposed to be, and then the hunt is on. All right, so now I have my aqua painter and my ink pads. So I have brought in the same colors that are in the paper. I've used Pool Party, Misty Moonlight, Evening Evergreen, Mint Macaron, and Blushing Bride. Evening Evergreen is not actually one of the colors in this DSP, but because I wanted a slightly different color for the stem as opposed to the leaves, I used Evening Evergreen there. So I'll do a watercolor wash over this flower. And I'm just going to move my card out of the way, the one I'm working on. And we'll swap this out to here so that you guys can see what I'm doing. And hopefully I will not end up with a mess. So you want to take your ink pads. It's a little bit harder to do this with our new style of pads versus the old ones, but you want to just give this a really good squeeze. And that will deposit some of the ink on the lid. Now, you can see that there is something on here. That doesn't really matter for this project, but given that it's there, I'm going to show you guys a trick. I'll bring this closer so you can see. Can you see that there is, I'm not sure if it's plastic or maybe some adhesive backing that got on there. But if you ever have hair or fluff or anything that's on your ink pad that's getting in the way of getting a nice clean stamped image, take some painter's tape, masking tape, scotch tape, whatever tape you have, and then you can just lift it off. So there you can see it lifted it right off. and I don't have to get my hands all dirty like they have been over the last week. Whenever I come to you guys, my hands are just covered in re-inker. But this way here, you can eliminate getting that all over your fingers. And now your ink pad's nice and clean. So I've got some in the lid here. I'm good with this one. I don't need to squeeze that one. I'm just checking each of these as I go. I have a little bit of re-inker squeezed in this one, so I'm good there as well. And then I'm good on that one. And I'm probably okay on that one too. It was just the first one there, I had used it all up while I was testing things out. So I've got a paper towel nearby so I can clean out my tip of my aqua painter in between every color. And first what I'll do is just paint a little bit of a wash. There's water in here this time, not rubbing alcohol. So today it's watercolor. And I just put a light coloring over top of the flower. And then I'm just picking up that ink from here. If I wanted this to be really bold, I could squeeze my re-inker into here and pick up a lot more color. But I don't want this one really bold because the card is kind of soft. I wanted to go with just a little bit. So now I'm just wiping the pink out. And this is still wet, but I want to make sure that it's got a bit of water on top. And then I'm going to put in just a little bit of Pool Party. I'm just kind of dabbing it. And then I'm going to pull the pink back into there. And then I might even lift a little bit out. I didn't want it strictly pink. It was a little bit too soft. So it's very subtle, the blue in there, but it just gives it a little bit of a marbled look. And then I'm bringing a bit more pink back in. And I'm cleaning off my brush again. My paper towel is just off camera, but you can see here I just wipe it like that to get the color out in between. So now I will just wet the stem. So I'm wetting all of the stems here at once. And then I'll pick up a little bit of the Evening Evergreen. The Evening Evergreen and the Mint Macaron are very close when you're watercoloring. So then I just get rid of that and then I'll wet these. I don't have very much water on here. If I did, these colors would bleed into each other a lot. So I've just got a slight amount there. Now I'll pick up the Mint Macaron. Mint Macaron is the color that's actually featured in this DSP. Give a little bit more there. And I think I forgot to wet this one first. So I wiped off my brush and I'm just wetting it first. If you don't wet it first, when you pick up the ink and go to apply it, it really grabs into the watercolor paper and you get, it's kind of streaky. So just try to make sure that you wet the paper a little bit first. It helps the ink to blend across it better than it would otherwise. Okay, so now I'll do this last little flower. So I did mostly Pool Party. You wouldn't think that with 4 colors I would have had so many options, but I actually did this thing like, I don't know, 5 times. It's still not my favorite because it's so muted, but that's okay. And then I put in like a tiny bit of Misty Moonlight into there just to, again, make it a little bit marbled. And then I came back over again with some more Pool Party. Do you guys like watercolor? I'm not really an artist, so like I can use stamps and I can layer things, but as for like freehand being an artist, I'm not so great at that. So it always makes me a little bit nervous, especially when there's no lines to go with. This is just a shape. So I'm not the best at it, but I feel like, I don't know, it's okay. But again, I'll come back with that stamped image. So I've dried that now. I'm going to leave that color like it is, but you can probably tell there's a little bit more detail to this one. So I have another step that I'm going to do to that. You guys can probably guess. Any guesses? Tell me what you think I'm going to do to that flower. Oh my gosh, once it's dry. And don't throw your ink pads all over the floor. That's helpful. I'll watch the comments for a second while I get the next part ready and see if you guys have any guesses about what I'm gonna do next. I'm sure it's not very hard to guess. All right, now I have one thing I'm going to do before the step that I have you guys guessing on. I'm going to spritz it with alcohol just to help dry it. And I actually had hearts to show you guys from the other day. That was partly why I chose this method, because I was going to show you guys the technique from the heart the other day. Oh, I know where it is. One second. So I'll sprinkle this Wink of Stella. Oh, that would have been cute. Ramona has guessed it. I'm going to spatter over it. So I spritzed it with alcohol, and I want to show you guys. I don't know why it's different with some colors versus others. I just about took us out here. But do you remember the card with the rainbow the other day where I told you guys that I would try Bermuda Bay? I figured out why my one card was so bold, my one heart. So one of these, this is the one that I had made before the live, and then I've already given away the one that was really dark that I made with you guys. But now this one here I did afterwards and flipped the rainbow in the other direction. But how I actually applied the color to that one, and then also to this Bermuda Bay one, here, you can see how bold it is, even though it's watercolored. So that is watercolor paper. I kind of like the back, actually. That's really pretty. I love the back. Anyway, what I did was I did a wash of water over top, and then I colored it in with the same method that I just did these. And then I dropped the re-inker onto it. When I was live with you guys the other day, I immediately then spritzed alcohol. That was where I sort of went wrong. I shouldn't say wrong, but what I did differently than my original sample. So how I fixed that was after I dropped the re-inker into the wash of color, was I then went back over it with the aqua painter. So brush over again and then spritz with alcohol. And when I spritzed with the alcohol right into that wash of re-inker over it, it created these little darker dots. So I don't know why with this one I got those little splotches of darker spots, but they're in the red here as well. So it happened to both of those when I followed that method. And when I'm ready to do this flower with a deeper color, I'll try that and see if it happens on that as well. But I just wanted to show you guys how the Bermuda Bay turned out. I don't know if that description made any sense for you guys, but let me know if it did. And I'll probably have to do a live to show you guys that method all over again. And I'll also show you how it turned out with the waves. The waves turned out really pretty. I think they did anyway. So this is how that same method, these are the waves. And excuse the messy background here, but you can see where I was working when I did them. I haven't made them into anything yet, but I will. I have a project in mind. But this is the same method that I did with these hearts. I just did that over the waves, and I think it's really pretty. So I'll make something with that. And then I did a little bit of a background with it as well. So I did the same thing on here. And then when I had all of the ink left over on my surface, because this is glossy, it's laminated, I just pressed my watercolor paper into the liquid that was left on my table, just put it face down and made some watercolor sheets. So that is that. I hope that makes sense. If you guys were here the other day and watched that technique, it will make more sense to you likely than to anyone who's new here today. But I'll have to come back and show those again. So Wink of Stella would be super pretty, but I am going to go with these. I have a couple that are already started here. I'm going to mask off certain areas of the flower, and then I'm just going to add spatter in color blocks. So I want to first spatter over the pink. So I've got Light Flirty Flamingo. It was the closest pink to Blushing Bride that I could come up with. So I'm just going to spatter some of that over top of the flower. But because I didn't want to just do black, I wanted it to be sort of in the tones of what I was working with. So I had to mask off portions and then make it match. I meant to dry this first, but that's okay. So now I've got pink spatter there, and I actually will dry this before I continue, just so that it's nice and dry. You can see how flimsy it is from being wet. It'll dry pretty quickly. The rubbing alcohol will help. Do you guys keep a stash of watercolor paper at home? I was able to cut those waves, as you could see. I did a project before Christmas. We did a class where we did the wreaths. So you can see here, you could only get 2 out of each sheet. But thankfully I was able to get the waves out of the bottom section there. So I save those. When it's watercolor paper, it's so pricey that it's good to keep your offcuts in case you can cut something else out of them. You don't have to use it for full backgrounds. You can use it for so many other things. Okay, that should be better. So then I'll just mask off these areas now. And got another half one here. So let's see. That's how I did that. Next, I'll use Pool Party over the Pool Party flower. And I've got to be a little bit more strategic in getting in there. Usually I splatter from further away, but because I want to get some spatter on such a small place, I have to be a little bit more strategic there. I think I just lifted off the leaf. No, we're good. Now I'll mask off that little flower. And I used the, no, I did not use Just Jade. I used the Soft Succulent is what I used for, actually gonna go with the dark Soft Succulent. I used light Soft Succulent on this one here, but it's very subtle. So we're gonna do a little bit darker. There we go. That's a little bit better. Gives a little bit more detail. There. So now the flower, you just got to be careful, especially if there is still any moisture in that flower, when you're lifting this off, that you don't tear it. There we go. And I'm actually going to put a little bit more pink over the flower. You can see that my work surface needs to be wiped down. There's all kinds of spatter all over here. There. So now it's got a little bit more detail to it than without the spatter. I don't know if you guys can see that. Kind of hard to tell from that far away, but there's a little bit more detail to that now. So now I will bring this back in. And now that I have the flower here, I'll let you guys comment. I don't know, I feel like that's just too, I don't know. I feel like I like it better with just the white. What do you guys think? Let me know. I will get my little piece ready for the greetings while you guys make your vote and let me know what you think. So while you vote on whether I should leave it just white, I like the cleanness, if that's a word, cleanliness or simplicity of just the white. That's my vote. And I used just Memento. I started off with Misty Moonlight, and again, it was just like a little bit too much blue on blue. So I switched it out and went with Memento. Do you guys have a go-to ink color for greetings? Let me know what you guys do. You guys probably can tell I have some like either signature or go-to embellishments. I love the little bit of silver twine when I need just a little bit of something. I agree. Thank you, Ramona. I like the spatter, and I love the little bit of silver twine when I'm just not sure what to do and it needs a little bit of something. That's my, if all else fails. So what this is here is it is just a piece of the silver elegant trim. And again, if you guys have watched me a bit here and there. You've probably seen me do this. These ones are ready to go for a fundraiser here. I have the Silver Elegant trim in my little box of go-to things, and I just cut off a section and then I separate it and pull out a strand. So that's all that is there. We're prepping these pieces for our fundraiser because they get some of that twine in their fundraiser kit, so they're a little bit fun to roll up after you've separated them. I'm also going to just distress these edges a little. I feel like that gives it a little bit more detail as well, so it's not just so basic white, but basic white is okay too. And then I also spattered a little bit over top of that with my Pool Party. So I'll do that as well. And this desk needs a good cleaning when we're done. Okay. And then I'll just tape the twine on the back. So I just put a little bit, this time it's going down the middle. I usually put it to one side, which I actually did do initially, but it did not look right over here. So I had to carefully peel it off, and then I moved it over to cross it over the stem. So don't be afraid to try this and just move it before you tape it down. So this is a faux bow. It's not, I'm not actually going to tie it. So with that, it's a little bit easier to just place behind there and gauge where you want it. So I just, oh, and that is, the one is too big. How many of you guys are working on cards for Ukraine? Is anybody doing that? So here we go. So that's just that faux bow, and then I want to tape that back down. I'm going to dimensional this layer, and I want to tape it just to give extra hold so that that bow doesn't go anywhere. So I just sandwiched it between those two layers of tear and tape, and then now I can dimensional that once everything's in place. I know that there's a few of you who are doing cards for Ukraine today. Not the fundraiser. 2 are prepping the fundraiser. And I've seen some beautiful samples from some of you as well. Okay, so I'm just snipping those down. There, so that's just on dimensionals. You don't need the whole thing covered. And then this will just get centered. There. And then now I can just dimensional this down. And then I have one extra little step. My first thought was to center this within this section here, but I didn't like how it cut off the bottom of the stem. So I just moved it up a little bit. I thought that was all right. Sometimes you have one idea when you have an idea in your mind of what you're going to do, and it does not come to fruition on paper, and you gotta adjust. So this was one of those, kind of all the way around. It was one of those where I had to keep switching things from what I saw in my brain versus what I saw on my project. And then I'm using the polished dots. These, unfortunately, I don't think are available again just yet, but hopefully they will be soon. So this is another one where I wasn't totally sure where I wanted to put these, so maybe they'll get adjusted yet, but for now I've got the 2 larger ones here and then a little one here, and I still need to trim that twine down. I love the clear ones. They are my favorite. The pink ones are really pretty too, and the pink ones probably would have worked really well on here. I just wanted to keep it pretty neutral. So I went with those, and I just need to grab ribbon scissors to trim down that twine. I probably could use my paper snips, but I just feel like my ribbon scissors are always a little bit more reliable when cutting trim. So there we go. And then what you could do is make a panel on the inside here, and then that's where you could write. I should have thought to do that, but I didn't even cross my mind to embellish the inside. So that is the faux front step easel card. So it still looks like an easel. Again, here's the actual front panel easel card or front step easel card. There was years ago we did a side step easel card, so the bigger panel was to the side and the easel was all off to the other side, so that's why this one's called a front step easel card. And then this one's like a faux front step easel card because you didn't actually have to do the work of slicing out these panels. You just kind of create this faux panel. And it is really quick to do this version versus all the fancy cuts on this version. So hopefully you guys will give that a try. And oh look, I'm going to show you the inside of Linda's card. Linda did put an inside hers. I was too busy looking at, she's so kind. She gives me the measurements inside her cards. Is she not like the most generous? I think it's amazing. I love her cards and she gives me all the instructions. So I could just read off of that while I was telling you guys to where to score your card. So she does have this inside hers. So that's super smart. I'll have to add one inside mine and then come back and show you guys. I know, it's awesome to not have to do the cutting. Thank you, Linda. Everybody's gives thanks to you for this idea of this card. So there we go. Linda's card, and then it was the inspiration for this one. I hope you guys will try that. And would you guys like to see what it would look like if I switch it out for the stamped flower in the middle? Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in seeing, whether it's live or just a photo. And don't be afraid to switch this out for any theme. You do not have to use this theme or even this one, but dig out your stuff that you've got at home and just be crafty with it. I bet it would look really pretty with sunflowers as well. Maybe a panel of the small sunflower and make a nice cards for Ukraine card. There we go. So that's today's project. If I will show you guys again the cards for Stamp Club for this month. So if anyone is interested in joining us, our Stamp Club is next Monday. There is still time to join in. You would possibly get your supplies afterwards, but it's recorded, so you could always join in. We're going to do this Mother of Pearl. You guys saw this in the evening the other day when I went live, and hopefully today you can see the shimmer. I'm going to see if I can find an angle where you can see that of this paper. It's so pretty. That's the one where I did the window card with you guys. I don't think I have that one handy. Or do I? I actually do. So this is the one that I demonstrated with you guys on live where I did the Mother of Pearl. But in club we'll be doing this one here with Grassy Grove. And I went and tucked them away. I should know better. And this one here. So if you're interested in joining, it is a $40 order with the, not this host code, it's actually a different one that is specific to club. And then you would get the supplies to make one of each card, and then you'd receive a third card from me that I make for you featuring the bundle. So that is what we will be doing in club. And you can just let me know if you're interested in that. Tomorrow is the last day to register for Waves of the Ocean if you want to get the kits, because we need time to prep them and get them out to you. The access only option will still be available after that, but the actual kit option will close tomorrow. So just let me know as well if you guys have any interest in that. And then again, if you're interested in using this host code here, a $65 order online gets you a free gift, and a $100 order will get you the free class that I'll have in April. So which one was the wow for Aoife? I was going to say with this card here, this one is just a reminder, Celine Kempton in the US. This is actually, I cased this from her. I think it's so pretty that she came up with this, and she came up with a technique as well. I was chatting with her afterwards and she said that she came up with that, so I think it's beautiful. I'm very excited to make that one with club members. So anyhow, I hope you guys all have a good rest of your Sunday. We have more card prep and designing and things to work on, otherwise mostly staying in, but hopefully you guys have nice weather where you are and get to enjoy the day. And I will post to update you guys on when I will go live again next, or tomorrow, because I'll do the draws tomorrow. But I will post the time for you guys so that you know when to join me. And I'm so excited that daylight will go longer. So I love being able to go live in the daytime. I don't know, I was telling you guys, or posted yesterday, that I just love the daylight. I love being able to craft by daylight, though I am sleepless stamper. It's kind of contradictory, I know, but I love being able to craft by daylight and show you guys projects by daylight. It just feels, I don't know, so much happier. So I'm very glad for the extra hour of daylight at the end of the day so that I have more time to come craft with you guys. All right, well, have a good day, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks again for joining me.